I know Prabhupada wasn't very keen on our men making movies. You know, there was a discussion that Gyanagamya had with him in Iran in August of '76, and he was very keen on that at that time of making a big commercial, full-scale movie. You know, the millions of dollars thing, and he had this idea that somehow or another it would popularize the movement. His idea was to show some scenario where the devotees were involved and people could see how we lived and get an appreciation from them. Prabhupada dismissed it. Gyanagamya brought up 5 or 6 different angles. He was desperately trying to get a yes from Prabhupada, but Prabhupada would not give him an endorsement for it at all. And he said, for the kind of money that you're spending, this was one of the arguments that he used, he said, the kind of money that you would spend on that, he said, how many books could you distribute? He said, and I have personal experience anyway, expending so much money and getting practically no result. He said, when I first went to New York, he said, then I put an ad classified in the New York Times. So he said, at that time it cost me so much money, I had practically nothing. For one small ad, it ran for 1 or 2 days or something. He said, I got 3 responses, and none of them bought my books. So he said, I have personal experience. This is, a waste of time. Well, I mean, as far as movies go as well, because in India, you can make movies about Krishna. And they've done it very often. But, they always want to focus in on Krishna's 10th canto, Gopi Leelas and things like this. So I remember when we were in Bhubaneswar, this was in late January and very early February of '77. So this movie maker came, 2 or 3 of them came, and they explained to Srila Prabhupada that we're making a movie, we want to popularize Krishna's pastimes. Now Hare Krishna is becoming very popular, and we want that everybody should know about Krishna, and we want to show Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. And so, we'd like, you are the guru of the Hare Krishna movement, so we would like to get your blessings for making this movie, and we'd also like to just put a little mention of our humble thanks, for the work that you've done in popularizing Krishna's pastimes on the movie. So Prabhupada immediately, told them no. He said, why do you want to immediately jump to Krishna's 10th canto pastimes? So they were saying, but Swamiji, everybody in India is a Krishna Bhakta. And Prabhupada told him, he said, nobody will understand. You'll show them and they'll take it as some mythology. Krishna being, killing the Trinavata whirlwind or whatever. He said, then they'll all think it's simply mythology. So then they said, oh, but Swamiji, everybody in India, they're all Krishna Bhaktas. So the evening before, Prabhupada had a conversation with a man who had asked him, actually, who is Krishna? Prabhupada was shocked. He's an Indian man, supposed to be educated, asking who is Krishna, and he chastised him like anything. It was in a darshan. And Prabhupada said, you're born in India, you do not know who is Krishna? And then when he had given his evening lecture, he brought it up in the lecture also, that, here we are in Punya Bhumi, in Bharata Bhumi, and now people are so degraded that they're asking who is Krishna. So now this film man came a day or 2 later, and he said, oh, but Swamiji, everybody's a Krishna Bhakta. Prabhupada said, you say that they're Krishna Bhaktas, but he is asking who is Krishna. So he said, why don't you make a movie of the 1st canto? You show that first, and then progress. You go progressively through the Bhagavatam, and then you can do the 10th canto. But of course, they wanted the 10th canto, Krishna with the gopis and this and that. But Prabhupada would not give them an endorsement, because they were simply trying to, capitalize on Prabhupada's popularity. Oh, this movie is approved by Bhaktivedanta Swami. But Prabhupada would not give him an approval. And after about half an hour, again, they brought up various arguments. Prabhupada would not budge an inch on it. He refused. He said, if you make one of the 1st canto, then we'll see.
At different times we were playing the materialist. in the morning walks, and then some time would pass. So at one point, Ganesh Prabhu, he posed a question, but it wasn't in a context where one could see that this was posing as materialist. He was just asked if he said, Srila Prabhupada, if the Bhagavad Gita is 5,000 years old, and Prabhupada said, what? Bhagavad Gita is not 5,000 years old. Have you read Bhagavad Gita? He says, yes, a little. Then you should know. You're a student of Bhagavad Gita, and you think it was written 5,000 years ago? And he started to walk. He says, millions of years, Bhagavad Gita, he began to explain. They stopped and said, you should know. He was getting really heavily chastised. But then I said, maybe he was posing as a materialist, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, even so, one should know Bhagavad Gita was not written 5,000 years ago.